Live your life, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
Yeah, rear naked choke a cocker spaniel, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
Change the neighborhood up.
Conspiracy Farm. Go. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, and Jeffrey Wilson is joining me, and our in-house scientist, George Pardos, retired Marine, is also with us, and we're going to have an interesting conversation about coronavirus, the science behind it, a lot of details a lot of people don't know. Try and get rid of some of the confusion surrounding it. There's a lot of people asking a lot of questions, including Jeffrey and myself, and so, George, it's great to have you here. You know, what I'd like to say is, you know, before in our last episode, when we had you on, we were talking about the coronavirus, this particular strain, COVID-19, being a lab-created virus. You know, I'm still leaning that way just because of how this is all going down and the monetary, the financial sector, the way it's responding to this particular virus. Like this was all planned as camouflage for it. But why don't you fill us in a little bit on you know, whether it was lab created, whether it could have come from a lukewarm bowl of bat soup, or or a hog. You know, be honest with
Well, let's start with the first of. I want to talk a little bit about Ebola. Okay,
and be very. Because if we talk too long or too complex, you will take me into a place where I won't understand some of these terms. So you got to please simplify it for our listeners and for myself.
Laser focus.
Okay.
Laser focus.
All right. Let's start out with something simple. The Book of Leviticus. Okay. I just want to cover this, and so most people have access to the Bible. The Bible about 5,000 years ago said, "Hey, don't eat these fucking animals." Okay. Because they carry certain diseases. Well, the Ebola outbreak started because some idiot in Africa decided to eat a bat. Now, the problem with the Ebola virus is that it has a property called zoonosis, which means that it can be transferred from animals to humans. So Ebola is in fruit bats in Africa, and what happened was these guys ate the fruit bats and then started spreading Ebola virus. That is what has happened here with COVID-19, is that we originated this because some idiots in China thought it was a fucking novel idea to cook bats and eat them, which now we've seen, no, it's not a good idea. And it's also not a good idea to keep animals in marketplaces where they're on top of each other. We have chickens on top of ferrets, on top of salamanders, on top of an open air market in Wuhan. You can see that they're keeping animals in cages on top of each other. The problem is that with zoonosis, you're able to transfer viruses from animals to humans quickly. Now, that's the breakdown of it. This is what has happened, is we actually had created a petri dish, which is all the animals together, put together in a big ass open area, animals that shouldn't be eaten by humans in the first place, like the Chinese eat ferrets, they eat pangolins, the Africans eat monkeys, so they eat animals that are not supposed to be eaten. As a result, they pass on viruses, which now have become a huge problem across the planet. And this is why we're here today.
So this is a result of that, or it's man-made? It has signatures of being man-made? Where are we at with that?
No, it has signatures of transferring from. It has signatures from transferring from animals to humans. That is what the signature has. Now, I'm going to, the only technical term that I'm going to say is in 2004, there's a research group that was headed by a guy named Shannon Yiruglu, who came up with this, and he's actually, and you can look him up on the NIH. he published a paper where he was saying this, that COVID-19 has the ability, or there's a COVID-19 that is or the coronavirus that is in feline cats. That is something that we have seen that before, and that was 16 years ago. So this has showed up in cats, or in felines, whatever you want to call them. The difference in the human version of it is a property called M protease, and that is the protein base version of the coronavirus.
I'm sorry, I don't mean, but the feline one, is that the one that they found recently? They say like eats your brain or slowly eats your brain. Is that real, or is that something bacterial from the fecal matter?
It's bacterial. This one is
okay.
The feline version of it. They've had a drug, and I can tell you, I'll name you the drug here in a second. But they had a drug that they've used on felines that has helped. It's an antifungal drug. Now, as of today, they're trying two different. The Japanese have a drug, and I've written down a lot of my notes. So if, hold on a second, and because a lot of these are, we're not in the speculative stage, but we're in the stage where we are going to start trying repurposed drugs. So there's a drug that came out recently called Avigan, and Avigan is has been proven effective in clinical trials. It's a flu drug invented by the Japanese, or developed by the Japanese. They're going to repurpose that drug for clinical trials for COVID-19. Here's what's happened, and this is why some of us 2 months ago were wrong, and part of it we were right, but part of it was wrong. COVID-19 is not a very robust virus. That's why it is spread all over the world so far. The contagion funnel is wider. When we look at viruses, we look at antigens, and we look at people that have, a regular immunity to this disease, and it does. Most people that get it are going to live through it unless your immune system has been compromised. If you have if your immune system is compromised, you're probably going to die. I'm sorry. I want to be truthful about this. I don't want to, I want to be an honest broker in this. But if you have a compromised immune system and you develop it, if you don't get help right away, if the hospital where you're at doesn't have the ability to help you, you're probably going to die. And I'm sorry.
And that's not much different. I mean, not to compare them directly, but from the flu, it's usually the older people who already had
pneumonia would do the same.
Who already had chronic conditions, and usually those chronic conditions.
Yeah, but flu turns your system into having pneumonia. You can fight, once you have pneumonia, usually it's developed by flu, and even healthy people can get pneumonia if it spreads over. I mean, you got to remember, Jack LaLanne was one of the healthiest individuals on the planet. He died from pneumonia because he got unchecked. So the issue is that flu will turn turn into pneumonia if you're not unchecked. And the part of the problem has been, there's so much fallacy out there, like, breathing hot air or in a sauna. That's not going to work. It won't kill the virus. I mean, if you breathe in at 180, there was some idiot on, I don't know, forget the site, but said, if you breathe in 180 degree air, 160 degree, well, if you breathe that in, your lungs are going to be nuked and dead. You're just going to be dead. I mean, that's so there are precautions to take. And if you do get it, here's the good news. You have about a 97% chance of surviving it. It's not going to kill you. You might be uncomfortable. Kevin Durant just tested positive. Tom Hanks tested positive, and he's out of the hospital already. So
I heard recently it attacks respiratory. Like if you have COPD or certain, it's really going to hurt you as well. Even if you're young, if you have certain respiratory issues.
If you're vaping, here's the three things that if you're doing these three things, you run your risk. If you're vaping, stop it. If you're smoking, stop it. If you're by any way smoking marijuana or anything that you smoke, you've already irritated the cilia in your lungs. You're just creating a walking petri dish for this. That's And that is one of the problems that is not being said, is that if you have an opiate addiction, you're vulnerable. If you're smoking dope, you're vulnerable, or you're smoking marijuana.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask for a friend of mine. I was going to inquire about that. So I want to make sure my friend's safe. I really do. I care about my friends. I just want to make sure they're safe.
I'm not saying THC use is vulnerable, but if you're smoking it, go to edibles, go to gummy drops, go to chocolate. I mean, I will pass
that on. Seriously, thank you.
I mean, seriously, convert whatever you're smoking. I mean, THC is not bad for you. It's smoking. And here's the other thing: if you're obese, if you're overweight, you run a risk of it. And so there are like 15 different factors. 45%. I had to look this up. And I got to give credit to your to Tim James. Okay, I looked this up and I thought I read this wrong. I thought I was just being a dumb fucking crayon eater. 45% of 40 plus year old, or whatever you want to say, people over the age of 40 are obese in this country. I give credit to Tim for posting. I thought, man, that's not real. That's not true.
Tim James, our boy, head of the Chemical Free Body.
Yeah. I mean, he posted that one day, and I honestly thought that no, this is he's just making this up to sell his products, which are a fine product. I looked that up, and I was like, I was absolutely astounded by that number was true.
Well, and not to digress too much, but I always heard, like, I've always been like a little guy. I'm like, what, 6'1", and now I'm just kind of cracking over 205, 206, 206, but I don't know about that BMI stuff, but I'm supposed to be like 185. Am I considered obese or overweight? I mean, you don't have to be like morbidly obese to be obese, do you? Or how's that work?
You know what? It's a sliding scale. I mean, it goes on BMI, it goes on body fat, it goes on numerous things. There's not there's not a moving. I've seen, if you go to by BMI, I've seen power lifters and bodybuilders with 10% body fat that are considered obese because and
of course I heard that BMI is not really reliable, so I don't know. Not to digress.
Right. I mean, there's numerous ones. I think the best one is how much body fat you carry. His name is Ryan something. The guy that's I think it's Eddie Ryan, the power lifter from England. The guy that's just massive. He doesn't carry a lot of body fat, but he would be considered obese.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Body fat is so. There's different measures. Basically, I would imagine your percentage of body fat is what considers you obese.
Okay.
I think one of the issues that again we're having is that we are just not. We don't have honest brokers anymore, and this is what scares me. And that's why I got to give you guys credit, especially Pat and Jeffrey for the Conspiracy Farm. You guys are willing at least to have conversations about some unpopular issues.
Yeah,
and that is what I think America needs.
That's why we're so unpopular all the way around.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about being your own boss too. What are you gonna do? What am I gonna do? Fire Pat? Was Pat gonna fire me? I guess it can happen. As this Pat show, he could always fire me, but something.
Right, but our show.
You're right. Are you right? I want
to. If you're here and I'm here, it's our time.
Yeah, Mr. Hunt. Let me ask.
So we've established.
Well, hold on. Because I want to make sure. I wonder how this is remarkable. Well, you said one of the markers we found is that this virus is transferring from humans, from animals to humans. Isn't that kind of standard operating procedure for your normal flu strain, avian flu, etc.?
Oh no. For your flu strain, no. For the SARS family, yes. So be specific, because there are influenza strains that animals don't get. There are influenza strains or viruses that are in animals that get transferred to humans. So be a little bit specific on that. Those are two different. There are two types of different influenza, and also one of the things that there's a rumor going around that it's that HIV, this was HIV that was injected into these cells, and that's not possible. That's just a myth. So let's get out of the conjecture and
Right.
be, you know.
Is it in any way true that a man in the UK has already been cured from either a vaccine? Okay. Now, how do we go about that? Do we go into him and find out what antibodies or whatever he had to make?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons behind it, is that, you know, if certain people can possess certain antigens or certain that, then it is possible for people to have, to pass on those antigens. And what basically that's the HeLa cell. We've talked about this before, where in times of past that you could pass on, that they used her cells to develop a cancer treatment, and so that is possible. I mean, it exists, all the time.
Well, and another thing I got a lot of questions about, and Pat, bring this up because, it made sense to me at the time, but then afterwards I was thinking, wait a minute, Neanderthals did migrate deeper into Asia than we realized. This notion of people who are dying won't possess the Neanderthal gene, and we see a lot of these deaths in Italy and certain European countries that you would think would possess the Neanderthal gene. Do you still stand by that statement that people with the Neanderthal gene won't die?
Was it percentages?
It's a higher percentage. And here's one of the things that, again, it goes back to the studies that have been done, and there's, market online. The R1B1 haplotype has prevented a lot of this. I mean, and what is really happening here, and this is something that as we've studied this a little bit more, the COVID-19 virus is not a strong virus. So it means that a lot more people will get it. They just won't die from it. Where SARS was a more lethal virus, it just affected, it killed more people, but it affected less people.
So where's this 10 times more deadly coming from then?
Because it's not that it's more deadly, is that the range of people that it will infect is more greater. It affects people on the 27 to 32 kb genotype. That's that funnel. Imagine let me break this down, Barney style. Imagine a funnel, okay? and so you have a wide funnel. The wider the funnel that you put people in, the more it affects. The SARS had a closer, a narrower funnel. Imagine the difference between a bowl of soup and a cup of soup. The cup of soup is deadlier, but there's only so much there. The bowl of soup is wider, and so when we first, when the people that we dealt with, and I have when we're testing toxins, one of the things we do is we run them through people on, we have a group of that we work together. It's not just myself. And one of the doctors that is on our board is the head he's in North Carolina. I don't want to say the city because I don't want to, it's part confidentiality, but basically he's head of the response team. And he said that, when we ran this by him, said, hey, is this no, it's not that dangerous. Most people will survive from it, but if you spread it around to 1,000 people, you're likely 30% of them are going to get it, where SARS, maybe only 10 or 12% were going to get it. That's the dangers here. That is the danger of this virus. And this is where we need to be vigilant. Social distancing is important.
Patrick?
Well, social distancing is something that George does quite often. He stays in his office 23 hours a day, only leaves to what? Why do you leave that office, George?
I go to eat and go to sleep. That's about it.
Code word for bury bodies.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the pandemonium, we have seen the media blow this thing way out of proportion. I mean, by this time, in pandemic standards of spread, N1H1 had killed already 1,000 people. I think this one has 75, 80 people that have died so far. So, people are blaming Trump. I mean, you've got
I mean,
MSNBC, an MSNBC host, a talking head, Glenn Kirshner, suggested on Twitter, and I said I retweeted him with a comment that said this guy actually is allowed to report the fucking news, but this guy posted on Twitter saying that some way that Donald Trump needs to be brought up on charges, that he's culpable and responsible for potentially manslaughter charges and all this other shit. These lunatics in mainstream media are off the charts, out of control. So, you know, this has been blown too far out of proportion. The closures, the lockdowns, I mean, do you think this is really necessary, George, to just lock down everything?
You want the truth is yes. Right now, yes, because we're going to have, we need to do a downward pressure on exposure.
Even from a guy who believes in throwing unfit babies off of cliffs.
And God, you know what? I do, and I don't mind. You know what? I don't even mind doing a Death Race 2000. You know, where we just, you know,
well, that's what coronavirus is, George.
Here's one of the
elderly.
Not just the elderly. Right? It's not just the elderly. We're starting to take out some, you know, some young healthy people, like the you know, in Spain, one of the soccer coaches, which is 21, just died from it.
Wow, the prime minister's wife's got it. The prime minister.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some young people. Here's the thing: people are for the most part are walnuts. Okay, you did a show a little bit ago, and you and Jeffrey did this, and I thought it was a great show about how the young was eating Tide Pods. Okay, so you had, I mean, do you remember that show that you guys did?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. You have young people out there eating Tide Pods, and you think that we are going to be able to control them without a state mandate? Come on.
You saw the new challenge, right? The morons that are licking toilet seats and literally. Have you seen it? I mean, honestly, I'm almost that kind of passive eugenicist. You're not going to save everybody, man. You know what I mean? It's thin the herd a little bit. If you got people out there doing that, something else is going to get them anyway. You can't save everybody.
What Jeffrey's saying is he kind of agrees with the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I mean, you know, if we started, I mean, listen, if we started, you know, if we started this down the road, here's what would happen. Yeah. I mean, you know, from epidemiology study, or if we just did nothing, exposed everybody to it, the pain would be over quickly. You would have a rising body count. Would that be acceptable? I don't know. I mean, you know, you think about that for a second, and you think about that in real terms. Would you be okay if tomorrow we just said, hey, go back to, you know, to social interaction, you know, go do what you do, go to restaurants, go to bars, go to, you know, places of worship, go to stadiums and all that. And then we started having people dying. If that
again, we're going to go down this path. Obviously, I was do it a little later, but aren't we going to see a certain level of body count anyway? I don't think it's going to be the virus that really kills people. The seed of fear that's been planted and this cascading effect of just economic hardship from bartenders like me to NASCAR, NBA. The money's going to be in billions, if not trillions. And then now they push this back. This could be until July and August. How long can people go without a work? You know, we're looking at, like Pat said, look at what's happening in grocery stores now when people's bellies are full. What happens when the fit really hits the shan and we're 3 months into this and people don't have checks? And you know what I mean? Well, why is the National Guard already in New York and in Florida and, you know, these different places throughout the country? I think they almost have to anticipate some measure of civil unrest. No.
Well, there's going to be some civil unrest, but you know, today, if you saw the thing today about if you saw, you know, the press conference today with Trump. And, you know, basically is that he, you know, one of the things that he said was that, you know, they're going to make, you know, money available. I bank at Chase. I already got a notice from them saying that if, you know, we were to need money, you know, bridge loans and things like that, that they would that they would basically cover some of our, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. They would cover some
money.
of our,
Yeah, I mean, that's what they said. They're going to start, dishing out checks to Americans. And now, in tandem with literally the $2 billion, the $1.5 trillion that was sent out, and then the $500 billion that was just thrown out there for whatever reason, this just creation of money. Isn't this going to create a hyperinflation where I don't care how much money you give me, it's not going to buy shit? It's some Weimar Republic where I got a barrel full of money to buy some loaf of bread. What's going to happen to the value of the dollar from this?
Well, I don't know, because the market went up today. I mean, if you take a look at it, the market went up today. What
That's, I mean, they're in get back mode, but they've lost almost 30% of its value here in the last month and a half. In this last quarter, it's almost lost 30% of the whole value of the stock market.
Right, and then I mean, you're right about that. I don't know what's going to happen, down the road in that part. I mean, that you might have. You might have a creation of hyperinflation, or you might not. I mean, it doesn't.
I'm no economist, believe me. I just have always heard when you just print money, that's what happens. Zimbabwe, I mean, you name it.
Well, this is $2 trillion already, and they're talking about another $1 to $2 trillion here coming pretty soon. The American dollar is going to drop in value. Our trading partners are not going to want to sell us things. That's just the way it is. You've got every state closing, every restaurant, every bar, movie theaters, gyms, grocery stores eventually are probably going to get shut down because eventually people are going to bum rush these places and steal stuff off the shelves. They're going to have to close their doors. I'm telling you right now, if the things continue, the airlines are already asking for $60 billion in payout or in bailouts. They're going belly up soon. The ripple effects of this are going to be felt for years to come already. Even if we were to recover tomorrow, it would be felt.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. But here, one of the things is you can always look. One of the things is think about how much money that they're making just from selling more. I mean, panic mode. I mean,
right. So I'll tell you who's shorting the market right now. Those are the cats just making dough.
Right, and the other thing is that Glock, Smith and Wesson, they just added billions of dollars to their bottom line. So let's be honest here. One of the things that I don't think is going to happen, and this is from looking at dynamics, is unless you start having real. Let's look at it another way. If you start having people dying, then you're going to have to replace them. Okay, that makes up for it. If you have people buying all sorts of stuff, toilet paper, sundries, and food, well, you can make more food. Food is an infinite product. I mean, it's not. There's not.
But what if it can't be? What if it can't be transported? What if it can't be shipped? That's where we're seeing some of these hiccups happening, and that's another market that's being.
It's not that they can't be shipped. It's just that they can't get it there fast enough. There's a big difference. If you were to buy, instead of buying, like if you're a Walnut and you're going into the store and buying 15 rolls of toilet paper, and you only need, listen, right. I mean, you don't need that much toilet paper.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, you don't need that many paper towels. I mean,
what happened there? Because literally over 24 hours, toilet paper became like the thing. Like,
people panicked. I mean, people's stupidity.
I mean, tell me, is diarrhea part of the flu? I mean, is diarrhea part of this?
No, it's not even. It's not even close.
It's about being quarantined and needing toilet paper, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think part of the problem that you're running into is, and I'll go this from the science part of it. We're trying to soft pedal the outcome. That is one of the issues that I've seen is that we need to be. We need to tell the truth. One of it is that viruses act the same. It's on a phylogenetic tree. The same sort of viruses have the same kind of properties. Okay, and in the COVID-19 properties, it's that we've had an antigenic property in this virus. That means it is morphed a little bit depending on where it is. This is why 161 countries have it. And there's no one on this planet that is smart enough to be able to make this in a lab, that, to use as a biological weapon. If it was a biological weapon, like anthrax, like any of the, whatever, sarin gas or any of it, people would have died faster and they wouldn't have healed.
If that was the point to do it, was to kill people, because once the person's dead, the virus is dead, right? Once the host is dead, the virus can't necessarily move around. So maybe they wanted people to just be sick and have this large. So you're saying equivocally now, because I think you differed last time, that it was man-made. I still believe. I believe this is a certain level of asymmetrical warfare, and when that kind of stuff happens, we're so busy reacting, we're not even realizing the larger architecture going on. The problem, reaction, solution that we fall for every time. The same people who start the shit are the same people who come in and solve it, in my humble opinion.
Right. And here's the thing that I thought, because at first the pattern of it looked like a biological weapon. It looked like a neutron, like a neutron bomb. You had a contagion area, you had a contagion funnel, you had a spread, you had basically, concentric rings spreading out. Then this is what is scary about it, is that it went all over the globe that fast.
Yeah.
Nothing that we have seen before, even the 1918 flu epidemic or the influenza epidemic, didn't travel like this, even if you take a look at the 1918, where granted, we didn't have air travel, we didn't have we didn't have ship travel.
How long did it take to get to those numbers? What is it, 16 million? How long was that time span?
18 months. It was about 18 months.
Wow.
And so here's the thing. We can mitigate there's two things that we could have done. We could just expose everybody to it. The people that die, and we clean up, we bury them, bury the dead, and then we move on, which is the Spartan way of doing it. Or we mitigate the exposure, we save more people, we hurt a little bit in the long run, and then we make up for it, down the road, which is the path that we're doing. I mean, we could expose all of America to it. West Virginia just had its first case.
Now, help me out with that. Why is that? Because of the terrain so remote? Why was West Virginia literally the last one to get it here in the United States?
I think mountainous terrain. The fact that
tourism,
not a lot of tourism. Right. It's a homogeneous. Most of the people are.
It is kind of you got a pretty mouth country down there, over there.
Yeah, it's Appalachian America, and a lot of it is that they don't have big urban centers. Charleston is the largest. Charleston is the largest city, and I think it's only got 200,000 as a population. I mean, we can look that up, but I mean.
Help me out with this.
Like
the numbers.
North Dakota only has a few cases.
Right. I mean, and again, population centers will drive the numbers.
Which makes sense. Yeah. Larger metropolitan areas.
Charleston's only got a population of 50,000. So I mean,
So I was seeing numbers in China are dropping, and they've technically been in this about 3-4 months. If their numbers are going down,
that's
is that
China reporting it though, right?
I know. I was going to say that. I was going to say that.
He just kicked out all the the New York Times.
I saw that. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I heard they built 4 hospitals in like 48 hours or whatever. Obviously, we can't trust the Chinese numbers. Is it getting worse over there, or are we believing any of the numbers that it's dropping? My larger question was, if it is dropping over there and they've been at it about 3 or 4 months, can we kind of look at that time frame as when we might be starting to decline in numbers over here? Or do you see this going on, like Trump said, till July and August, and this might even be a reoccurring yearly thing like the flu?
We might. I think in 3 months from now, I think that in the next 3 months, it's going to be contained to that we're comfortable being out in public with it. Now, I think so. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like, but there are people out there that are, like I said, they are coming up with some classes of drugs that will help it. Will it be what, will it be 100% concrete? No, but will it be to the point that, some of the things that there's a drug, for example, I'm going to mention a drug. Okay. It's called itraconazole. And for anybody that is listening to this, there is the national, the NCBI, or you guys can go take a look at it. There, it says the clinically licensed antifungal drug itraconazole inhibits influenza virus in vitro and in vivo. Jonas Goretzko is one of the authors, and also again with Linda Brunette. Now, this is an abstract, but I mean, the abstract is influenza virus IAV is a common pathogen respiratory disease. And the IAV-induced seasonal epidemics and the sporadic pandemics are associated with high morbidity and mortality. Therefore, effective protection and therapy for IV infections is an important challenge in countering this public health threat. This is a drug that has worked in the feline or the cat version of SARS or COVID. They're going to this is one of the drugs they're looking at to repurpose it for humans. Now, the other one there's another drug out there, and it's confirmed effective on COVID-19. It's called chloroquine phosphate, and this is an anti-malarial drug. Now, the reason this one is important, and the reason this is hope, is that when we have history of anti-malarial drugs working on viruses. So when they first took the Irish to Montserrat, they died because they weren't resistant to malaria. But when they took the West Africans there, they were. And that's a kind of a history lesson. But we have models of this fighting viruses. And the problem, and so I think with it, the world is going to come together and say, hey, listen, we need to get if we had a vaccine for this, we wouldn't have this debate.
So that was another thing I was going to ask you, because I've already seen, the Canadians or somebody, I think I posted it yesterday, how they're already have some measure of vaccine. Isn't the time frame for an adequate and effective vaccine like a year? So any talk of a vaccine this premature is probably horseshit, right?
Yeah, it's just like, saying because Tom Brady got traded to Buccaneers, they're going to win a Super Bowl next year. I mean, that's So
if you guys didn't know, George, in addition to being, an incredible thinker, he's the president of the Tom Brady fan club, and he's really broke up that he's not going to be in New England any longer. So let me ask you, and this might be out of your purview, because I know you saw this as well, and this is another red flag for me when I see all this shit play out. You go back to, I think it was October or earlier this year, you saw Event 21, sponsored by the World Economic Council, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, on very specifically a reaction to a pandemic from coronavirus. And then, I mean, it's a very common virus, so maybe they could just be planning for some measure of eventuality. But this plays out, and then, within the last couple of days, Bill Gates resigns from Berkshire Hathaway and Microsoft. I mean, does any of that raise any red flags to you? Or is that just, standing operating procedure, just planning for a possible pandemic? Because coronavirus is common, and et cetera.
I think a lot of it is that, there's a lot of, it's easy, one of the things I always say that correlation doesn't mean causation. I mean, you take a look at where if the more amount of Nicolas Cage movies that come up, the more
Stop it.
People die in a bathtub. Seriously.
What? I mean, okay. With that said, as a military guy, look at the correlation of how many drills take place before so many of these things, 9/11, et cetera, et cetera.
Not okay, but the United States Marine Corps Reserve just halted all weekend reserve meetings or weekend drills. So why would you, if that was the case, why not ramp up, not ramp down? I mean, you just started. I
don't even mean necessarily just military drills, just different companies. I wouldn't say black ops, but just drilling these kind of scenarios, whether military or private companies.
I think there's something to worry about. I just I don't know. I don't know the whole of it. I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it just has to do with that it is. It's maybe just that time. I mean,
well, and then you had, within the last month, these resignations of McDonnell Douglas the other day, MGM. Like, there's a series of pretty hefty resignations from huge companies in the last month and a half. Could be nothing. Could be absolutely nothing, because people resign all the time.
Well, one of the things that you got to think about too is that when they started stepping down, the market was at an all-time high. It was 30. It was hovering right around 29 to 30,000. So,
that changed quick.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, if I was, if I, there's a school of thought, and I mean, we can go that one, is that if they knew that the market was going to go down, or we were going to head for a recession, and last year in November, when was it? The middle of November, is right after Veterans Day. One of the guys from Goldman Sachs came out and said that there's going to be we're looking at maybe a recession sometime in the first quarter.
The spring.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not an economist.
They've
How
all
are
been saying it.
How are we not already, bro? Literally within the last week and a half, whatever it was, Wednesday, we broke the record for the biggest single day loss. 3 days later,
Right.
3 days later we topped that, and then yesterday we topped it again at almost 3,000. How is it not just collapse at this point? I wish I knew more about the economy, but those numbers are devastating.
Well, because our world economy is a lot stronger than.
Yeah,
the world economy is a lot stronger than people think. I mean, it's the fact is that we have globalization, which people say is bad, but at the same time, you take a look at, the wider the base. I mean, this is an old wrestling axiom, or fighting axiom. The wider the base, the harder it is to knock you over.
That's why I think there will be no.
This current global economy is built on very fragile bubbles right now, and this thing is, we've talked numerous times about Deutsche Bank, about Wells Fargo. We've talked about a lot of the stuff that's going on, that so many people are over leveraged. This stuff is this in my mind. Look, you can call me a nut job, whatever. This to me is very clearly, whether it was an accidental release of this, whether it was an animal to human transfer, whether it was a lab releasing it on purpose to get it started, whatever the case, this is being used as camouflage for a complete monetary reset baby. And overhaul.
Yes.
Period.
And we got before you start, we got Dr. Joseph P. Farrell coming back on, Oxford scholar, Monday to really break this down. And it's in the numbers that I can't, quadrillions, he said, the derivatives, the collateralized debt obligations, like the huge amount of bubble we're talking about. And then we go and drop like 3 trillion in there. Bernanke, there's a video of Bernanke online. I think he was on 60 Minutes, and they just asked him, like, sir, how are we doing this? And he's like, well, we just go on the computer and move the zeros. Like they just create it out of nothing.
Well, they do, but you can do that when you can do that. Is that you are able to do that when you have a credit economy? It's just like this, okay? I mean, you look at it. If you are if you are in a credit economy, right? You're able to do that. All you're doing is saying, okay, listen, I'm going to pay you back later. I mean, we've had futures for 5,000 years. I mean, a future note is nothing new. I mean, we've had that, the Romans used to give that, used to have that 2,000 years ago. I mean, that is what, you got to remember that Jesus toppled the temple because of the money lenders. And guess what the interest rate was when Jesus knocked over the money lenders? You want to take a guess?
0.
18 to 20%.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Not an economist, like I said.
No, but I mean, that was the story of the talents, where that's what the
usury, essentially. It was a matter of usury, and that obviously became illegal in certain, unless you're doing some Shylock type, loan shark type shit.
And that was 20%. I mean, if you and here's the thing, if you redeemed, I mean, and I'm just using historical numbers, whether you believe in the Bible or not, but if you redeemed a tithe, right? If you redeemed a tithe, the interest on redeeming a tithe was 25%. That's where it comes from. You can look that up.
Well, and again, a friend of mine way smarter than me on this. One of these other elements of this, what I'm looking at as a possible collapse, is like treasury bonds, where people invest in, basically an investment in America is almost like 0%. You're getting nothing for it. So that to me is also a huge sign. The stock market less so much, even though it is a huge barometer. Things like yield on T-bonds and 0% interest loan. I mean, it's not a good sign. They were saying 2 or 3 years ago we're looking at another correction after 2008, and what I'm seeing here these last few weeks, it's almost not a matter of if it's going to happen; it's when it's going to happen.
Right. And part of it is too is that here's one of the other things is that a lot of this is media driven. I mean, part of it is that a lot of this is you have a lot of media driven, hyperbole. And I mean, it is just crazy that some of the stuff that people are putting out of there. And one of the reasons is that a lot of the people fill in what they don't know with conjecture, because again, you want answers to something that sometimes doesn't exist. I mean, we had this, think about this for a second. We've had, and I've said this to people numerous times, and I've been, I got in a long-winded argument today. One of the things that we've seen in toxins, right, has not changed in, one of the people, it has not changed in 30 to 40 years, which is something called the absorption rate. And so the absorption rate is how many toxins can your body absorb before you go into shock. And that's a pathology, so if, for example, this is a, I don't know how to I'll phrase this. I'm going to do this Barney style. Most of us,
I love that.
Most of us use, people have used Raid and roach killer in their house, right?
Yes.
I mean, I would recommend, I'm going to say this on a side note, if you use Raid, any of the roach killers in your house or any of those, make sure that it's well ventilated. Make sure that you're not breathing in the fumes, or if you got a mask on. Okay.
I've always thought those were pretty.
If it'll kill bugs, why would it kill us, George? Come on.
Yeah.
I know, but we're dumb wrestlers, so.
No, I remember even as a kid spraying that shit, being downwind from it when I was spraying, and just like, dude, that was not good.
So one of the things is you can breathe that stuff in for one day. You can breathe in it for a second day. You can breathe in it for the third day. Fourth day, it kills you.
Whippets, on the other hand, have a ball.
Yeah. But those are the things that you get. Toxins they hit what's called a saturation level. So once you get to a certain level in your system, you die. Now, Pat is 185 pounds. Which is absorption rate? Well, it could be, X amount, 300 milliliters. You are 185 pounds, 190, you're 300 milliliters. Me, I'm 295. Me, maybe 500 milliliters. Every system is different. So that is why certain people, react different to toxins.
Why? What is the deal I'm hearing about? And this could be, well, whatever. Again, it's so hard to get real information that kids are walking around asymptomatic and just spreading
Yes.
and having no symptoms. What's the deal with kids?
Well, because remember when we did the show and right after the debate with Del Bigtree, and I told and I asked the question to Pat, and we asked this, that remember when you were a little kid that you didn't know people that had resistance, or that had peanut allergies, or even and even with Pat, he didn't have
unknown
gluten.
Yeah, it was right. So what happens with kids is they have a hardier, most kids, not all, most have a hardier resistance because they just don't have as many toxins they don't have toxins in their system. They haven't developed those allergies yet because they just don't have, they don't have 30 or 40 years of breathing in dust or, or being around it. So they don't show it. So I'll use the daycare model. When hepatitis B, we had a hepatitis B breakout a couple years ago. One was in Chicago. They had a daycare where the kids had tested, they were tested positive for hepatitis B, but the adult workers were the ones that showed them symptoms. And the reason was that the kids were passing it to the adults, and because the children were asymptomatic, because again, you don't have a saturation level in the children, they were fine. The adults got sick.
So interesting.
Yeah. And again, it goes to, like I said, it goes into saturation levels. It goes into how much can your body absorb before you get into
Well, like you said, everybody's body's different. Like the guy who got cured had the right antigens. You mentioned Dell. You had said something about you're going to meet back up with Dell. He just posted a video the other day talking about this. Are you guys talking about meeting back up? Dell Bigtree, of course, the producer and director and host of the Vax documentary.
Invited. I don't know if I told you this or not, and maybe I got invited to their conference in. I got invited into they're having a conference on the State House lawn in Ohio. Hopefully, it doesn't get canceled. On May the 5th or May the 4th. I got to take a look at it. The first week in May. They are having a conference on the HPV vaccine, and I got invited there by one of the researchers. So, because like I said, one of the things we have been doing is we've been testing paradoxical effects of vaccines and antigens. So, one of the things that we found out, and especially recently, that with the mitochondria we've tested in mice, that when you expose them to creatine peptides that have leucine in it, and another compound that we've developed, which is a polymorphic compound from peptides, they've had in 46% of the mice that we've tested, we have had positive results for mitochondria healing or repair. And what we do is I want to go down the science path just for a minute. So when Brenda tells me to go do my research, I'm going to tell them exactly how I do my research.
Please explain for our audience who Brenda is.
Brenda the reason I use Brenda was a female in Ohio that withheld medical treatment for her child, and the child died. And so Brenda was charged with involuntary reckless abandonment of a child, and it was
criminal neglect or something.
Criminal neglect, and she went to and her first name was Brenda, and so I just use that as a model because I just think it's funny. So one of the things that we found out was that we introduced this peptide. About 46% of the mice had their mitochondria healing. So what we do is we take the mouse and we take the rear plantar's ligament, and that is because it's the medial part of we dissect their back leg open, and we pull that out, and that's what we test. And it's like it would be the equivalent of taking out your quadricep, basically, and that's what we test, and we see. And in about, like I said, in the control class that we had, 46% of the mice that we tested had positive results or positive mitochondrial repair after exposure to toxic fumes. So that was, and I think that's going to be promising in our approach to say, hey, listen, if you've been exposed to a toxin, what can we give you as either a prophylaxing or a post-exposure therapy to
rebuild your tissues
to rebuild your tissues. And that is one of the tests. Now we have since then we have ran the tests. We have then given them to another offsite lab to verify our numbers with tissue samples, and saying, hey, listen, this is what we've seen pre and post exposure. What do you think about it? Are we, do we get the data correct? Are we, are the cells, visible in repair? Can we trace the pathology from once we've introduced the compound into their system? Can we trace the both intracellular and intercellular? So that's where we're at right now. And by the way, we have another conference. We have another meeting with Dr. Shiva from MIT, and we're one of the things we're trying to do, because this is an expensive process. I mean, if I had the 20 million that Pat did, I would just go to a remote lab in somewhere in North Dakota and just do this.
With 20 million, why the hell am I even wasting time with you guys?
Once he gets Oh man, the allegiance, the alliance only goes so far. Like Ted DiBiase, everybody has a price over here.
Well, I'm going to turn it into about 150 million here after the market drops a little more.
Right, jump in, buy low, sell high. So, George, that's what I love, man. I mean, you have a very practical, very pragmatic, very level-headed approach to this. You're not fear-mongering as far as this is the big collapse, this is the big reset, even though, I might disagree as far as that goes. But what are you basically advising people as we hear the head of the CDC, et cetera? Is it just kind of common sense, wash your hands at this point, self-quarantine, et cetera? Or is that... Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
So this is what you can do as from a practical standpoint. This is what you could do. Wash your hands. Keep your hands washed. Number 2, stay away from people. Number 3, Lysol is your friend. Clorox is your friend. If you don't have access to Lysol, just get some bleach. Measure, basically a quarter, use a quarter cup of bleach, pour it into a bottle, add some water to it, make your own compound, spray down, spray down, things that you're going to touch all the time, especially in your bathroom. A little bit of, a 1 or 2 drops of bleach in dishwater would help, from, if you're using dishes, if you're, one from the house. Number 2, something you're not thinking about. Take your shoes. Do not walk around your house with shoes on. Take your shoes off at the door, leave them by the door, leave them outside, spray them down when you get to the house. I mean, the reason is you're going to track dirt in your house, and then you're going to walk all over the house with dirty shoes for been out in the public.
Yes.
Or if you are, taking, put them in a plastic bag, spray some Lysol in them, keep them by the door. That will help. Spray down. If you're at a gas station, use a wipe for the handle, because you don't know how many people have touched that handle in the course of a day.
What about cash? Handling cash? I've saw a couple of restaurants are only taking to-goes through credit card. And could this be a part of the larger getting rid of cash? Provocative.
Digital currency, the monetary reset.
But seriously, though, handling cash, is that something to be conscious of?
Handling cash, and then you can, because cash is cloth, by the way. The American cash system, I don't know, I know you reach people in multiple countries, but the American, your dollar bill is made from fiber, so fiber has a residual control. After 14, one of the dangers with COVID-19 has been it's got an incubation day of 14 days. So you could have it for 14 days.
See, I thought it was 20. I thought it moved to like 24, 28.
It could be. I'll give you.
I'm sorry. Before you go, that's the scary part. When Trump the other day was like, "Hey, don't come in here and just get tested just to be tested. You got to be sick or show symptoms," which is me counterintuitive, because you could have been walking around it for almost a month or even 2 weeks, spreading it with no symptoms. The damage is already done. I would. I'm not saying advocate test everybody, but I guess we might get to the point where we might have to just test everybody, because if the longer the incubation period extends, I guess the more people are getting infected.
Yeah, and we might have to start testing a lot of people, because they're not going to be happy about it. But we got to test people. New York is talking about it in an in-place quarantine. Here's the thing: the bigger the city, the more exposure you risk, because it's a floating petri dish. One of the things I'm going to tell you this. One of the things to avoid is, don't put I know this is going to sound fucking stupid, but I know people out there. Don't reach, if you're eating something, like, don't share food with other people. If you have a bag of peanuts, don't let one person put their hands in there and put it, measure them out in it, in their old, in their own dish. I mean, I know that, you've got Pat has 3 Rugrats, which probably, or what I like to call them tax deductions, walking around the house. and also the other thing, put that fucking spit cup away, because that's another thing that makes you susceptible to the virus.
Hey, listen, George, without germs, I love it. Our immune systems do not get any stronger. I am lucky that I grew up in a wrestling room, as are you, lucky that we grew up in wrestling rooms with all the crazy infections and everything else going around. I played in dirt, played in the woods my whole life.
Yes.
And frankly, it's we have survived catching, many things when we were younger. So I think I think that the constant use of the antibacterial soaps and all the other stuff is just making people more vulnerable to the big bugs that are going to come along.
Do you remember? I got to ask you a funny story, though. I mean, on a live.
You never concurred with me.
Yeah, I was going to say,
because
they say overuse. I've heard that overuse of that does weaken your stuff.
Yeah, it does. I don't. I don't use anti. I remember back and I got to tell you this because this is your era. We had a workout session at the OTC, and I remember. Do you remember Roy Soldier? Did you know him? Or were you buddies with him?
Me, yeah. I wrestled against him when I was a kid.
Right. Royce is he's a buddy, he's a good friend, but we were at the Olympic Training Center, and this is 1990. And, I'd been at the Olympic Training Center I don't remember any in 1990. And I know that this is not that long ago, but we were out there with Royce and Kenny Monday and, Tom Erickson and Mark was out there. And I don't remember hand sanitizer anywhere. I remember that we used to have, we used to use. Now, when we got done wrestling, we had to clean the mats, and we used this. It was bleach and I forget what else. I don't even remember but we never had any of that stuff, and I don't remember in 5 years at Ohio State, we never had a breakout. I remember the times we went to the Olympic Training Center. I remember when. Rico Chaparelli was sick, and he was in the room. No one else got sick. I mean,
how bad of both of you guys? How bad of a case of staph have you seen though?
You know what? I other than Kevin Randleman, I have not seen. When I was at Ohio State, and Kevin was an idiot about how he handled it. So I mean, I love Kevin. He was one of my dear friends. I mean, I wrestled him every day when I was at Ohio State. But he. I don't remember, even at Ohio State, we never had a staph infection. We never had even impetigo. We had one case of ringworm, but I understand, that was because the guy was an idiot. But, we used to, a lot of the stuff that we did in the room and in Larkins, where we wrestled when I was at Ohio State, Larkins was if you take a look at how it was an old part of the building. It had very few windows. I mean, it just had so much exposure to germs, and hardly any of us we never had a team flu. I remember when a few years ago, I forget what team you're familiar with this. They couldn't go to the Midlands, Pat, because they, like 6 or 8 of their guys had caught the team flu. Do you remember who I'm?
I do not remember.
I think it was either Cornell or.
We're digressing because people might not know who the hell these people are, but the larger point.
One of the teams, yeah. But I'm saying as we gotten older, one of the teams that we saw had, they use hand sanitizer, they use bleach, they use all of this stuff. And I don't remember this when I was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And I think that this is,
I wonder, what, we've talked about that, Pat, back in the day, hell, you ask a kid to climb a tree, like, why the fuck would I climb a tree? Like, dude, because you're playing, like, you weren't at home, you were playing, like, hey, you ring the doorbell, hey, can Pat play? Like, that was your thing. So, like, we obviously exposed ourselves to more, but, I mean, going back to kind of kids being resilient, I wonder how many more kids, because they are living that more sedentary lifestyle, might be affected by this, obviously with their respiratory issues, getting obese and fat because they don't freaking move. So that'll be interesting to see how those numbers differentiate from, like you said, 20, 30 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the other thing. Jeffrey, where did you grow up in? What part of the world?
Same as Pat, Quad Cities.
Okay. I mean, again, it goes back to, do you remember people having peanut allergies back in the 60s, in the 70s and 80s?
Negative. Even as an adult, when I heard it, I'm like, peanuts? Like, what?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but I remember we used to drink. I know this is, sound weird, but I remember we had this lady that was one of the nicest ladies ever. She used to make Kool-Aid from she used to make Kool-Aid in this old glass pitcher. And I remember a couple of us, you would take a drink out of a glass, give it to your buddy, he would pour a glass, drink it. And I mean, 2 or 3 people would drink out of like the same glass. We never got sick. Yeah. And I don't know if it's, part of the problem has been is that we are creating, weaker immune systems.
Or that friend that that's always sick, like coming up. Yeah, they're like, especially as I got older, man, a lot of my friends like, man, you're always sick.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, and one of the things that I think goes back to, I'm going to give you my opinion and a couple of the other people that I deal with. We have started treating pain as a disease. Yeah. So, and why I say that is that now if you're in any kind of pain, if you're in any kind of pain, you go to the doctor, and we created the opioid crisis because, again, if you get an opiate, my back hurts. Okay, here's hydrocodone. Okay, well, it's 95% addictive. Oh, and then that that's one of the problems that you have. So I don't know if I hope this becomes a wake up call for all of us that say, hey, listen, we need to change the way we approach medicine. We need to, the other thing is we need to quit making drugs overseas and bring them back into the U.S. and especially med kits, testing devices, IV bags, crash cart drugs. We need to bring all of that back into the United States. We can't afford to have foreign powers be able to make that for us.
Yeah, you think of all the diabetes drugs. You think of so many different drugs that people absolutely need to keep going. I mean, God, let them keep the psychotropic drugs for God's sakes. But no, there's so many drugs. The nitroglycerin to keep to help people get through a potential heart attack. The diabetes drugs and many other things that people absolutely need right now. But it's nuts. And this does serve, there are some bright spots, as you said, with this potentially bringing back manufacturing here, of those types of drugs, of many, many things that we would, a lot of people would get jobs because of that. That'd be great.
Yeah. And I think the reset of this, whether it's man-made, whatever, that seed has been planted, and that ripple effect is going to continue to go and possibly grow. But like I said, we're not really going to see the real dark side of this for a little bit. And coming out the other side, it's just going to be, in my opinion, such a huge, massive reset. Because, it might sound dramatic or whatever, but, I was saying the other night on my Facebook Live, like, remember pre-9/11, what was going on in your life? This is almost like, it's going to be like, remember pre-corona? Because I think it's going to be such a huge game changer for everything. And
think how much food alone, restaurants, bars, and hotels make up 5% of the GDP.
Right.
So restaurants, bars, and hotels, how much food alone and booze those places serve, the supply lines, it's going to go dry. People are losing their jobs on the back end of this, where there's no more need to ship stuff out because all these restaurants and bars and everything else are closed, and hotels. This spells financial disaster for many, many, many businesses. And who, when the 08 housing collapse happened, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the banks, certain groups needed bailing out. Everyone needs to be bailed out with this one, and there is nobody to bail them out.
I think the federal government, the Fed could bail them out. In some places they've done, rent control. They've done,
George, we're talking everyone.
Right, but listen. If we are either we're all Americans or we're not American. Seriously.
I know that, but these motherfuckers at the top, really. That's what I was saying the other day. They've left no stone unturned, from your bar to your restaurant, transportation, all the way up to the NHL, NASCAR. You're talking just sports alone. No March Madness. What? No WrestleMania. I know you're talking billions of dollars just with sports.
Trillions, yeah.
And you move into all these other aspects of society. It's going to be trillions.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, it is going to be but one of the things is you can make up lost revenue. You can make up lost revenue.
After how long and after what damage is done to the buying power of the dollar? Is this not Weimar Republic type shit? I know, again, we're not economists, but when you create all this fucking money, we just pumped $3 billion in the last 3 days. I'm sorry, I keep saying that, trillion.
In my mind, the reset has to be so extensive that everybody goes back to 0% owned or owed to other people. I don't know, with Italy suspending mortgage payments for up to a year, I believe it is.
Right.
Are they going to do
IRS
the same here?
just extended the tax deadline?
When the IRS is pushing back filing dates 90 days, that's going to get pushed back even further. You realize that, guys. I don't know if there's a bigger picture here where is there going to be a run against the Federal Reserve to kill the Fed? I don't know.
And you know what? The real deal breaker for me, and I'm dead fucking serious, when you push back the Pat Miletich fucking Michael Nunn fight till June when it was scheduled in May, I'm telling you what, it is about to go down, son.
Luckily, we already had that pushed back, but
see, God, now why'd you step on my drama? I'm trying to create a little drama. I knew that, Pat. You knew that. Why'd you just step on my drama over there? My goodness.
Right.
Trying to WWE.
Well, because you know what? I mean, maybe both of them will come to their senses and not fight at 50 years old, and they get brain hematoma from a bad
This guy, how dare you?
I mean, I wouldn't want. I love Mark, but I wouldn't want Mark to get in the cage right now.
Well, Mark has taken a few more shots than I have, George.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's.
I've never been knocked out. Never had a concussion.
I'm gonna quote General.
You never had a concussion ever?
Damn straight.
Never had a concussion. I'm Croatian, dude. I'm invincible.
Yeah, when you have a brain size, the size of a peanut, I would imagine so. So yeah, that's fine.
No, because I'm built with superior genetics.
He's a man forged of steel and fire and a cauldron.
I've said it before. That's why the Ottoman Empire got stopped in Sisek, Croatia in 1593. We saved your Greek asses.
Oh shit! We're about to have a fucking.
I mean, all Croatians
we're
are
about to go back.
Spartans that took a left turn. I mean, seriously,
No,
I mean, you think
we're
about that.
we're Spartans that took the right turn. And
I mean,
bigger,
if you take a look from where Marathon, I mean, when they stopped them at Marathon.
Yeah, Greeks are good at running from Croatians.
I don't think so.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Croatia is the beginning of the Western culture, but but again, it goes back to let's talk about that for a second. In the antigens that are present in Croatians, Greeks, the Balkan states, in 432 AD, BC, there was a huge virus outbreak in Athens. And the people that survived it, it mirrors either Ebola or the plague. People survived it. There was an outbreak in 18 when Messalongi, which is in here. There was an outbreak in 1840 or 1842 in the Med. People survived it. So if you survive, if your great grandfather survived some, horrific plague, and they passed on that cellular memory to the kids.
Obviously we're talking a few generations, obviously, because you look at the number of the Italians that are kind of in this geospecific region you're talking about. A lot are dying, so a lot's obviously changed in the old genetic sequence.
Well, a lot of them also too. You got to remember that part of the thing is that the Italians, kind of didn't take it seriously, and didn't do any social distancing. They didn't do any of those things that would have prevented it. So
when I ask somebody, is that because they're very greedy, hey, ciao da bella, like kissing and that whole kind of very physical?
No one knew the severity 2 months ago. I mean, and here's one of the things I go back to. We soft rolled this when Ebola broke out in Africa, we soft rolled it too, because when we said, it's Africa, it's Central, the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's over there, we're not. And then we had an Ebola outbreak at the southern border. Well, now it hit home. When it first started in Wuhan, we're like, it's the Chinese. We don't care. They got, if it kills 300 million people, that's just a rounding error. And then all of a sudden it's in your doorstep and 1,000 cases are in. And as of today, the prediction is that by tomorrow morning or Friday morning, the 1,000th case will be in New York City. Now,
going back to Wuhan real quick. I mean, I don't mean to. I've got sent all this stuff. 5G just started in Wuhan, October. So, is there any correlation possibly? Because this is one of the huge things that have been sent to me. How 5G did pop off in Wuhan. I think it was October 2018 or maybe April. But any correlation whatsoever?
I don't know. I don't know enough about 5. I haven't researched 5G.
Supposedly, it's one of the symptoms of 5G. You feel disoriented, flu symptoms. It just seemed like a reach to me because I've heard all kind of different theories, but I did want to bounce that off you.
I have not. Here's the thing. I have not studied. I have not studied 5G. So
no worries,
I
no
would.
worries.
And that, so I can't give anything. I can't give a qualified answer in that. That's one of the things I try to stay out of is if I don't know enough about it, I don't get into the conversation.
That's the move. I would rather that.
I think one of the things that we need to do. I will say this, and I'm going to go back into one of the studies that's happened. We have some antiviral compounds that are available, okay? And we have antiviral compounds that are available, commercially that before you get into, I don't know what you want to call them, the pharmacology behind it. But there are some antiviral. Get a hold of some of them. Take them. It'll help you out. If nothing else, you'll be a little bit healthier. Get plenty of sleep. Don't smoke. Take some of the, I don't want to promote one, because I don't want to be, like lavender oil, but, find some, Google antiviral properties of compounds. And there are some that are naturally occurring.
And so you're also suggesting and also frowning upon the licking toilet seat challenge. Is that going to fall in the don't do move?
Oh my God. I mean, and again, last year you did a show about kids eating Tide Pods.
Yes.
This is, I mean,
it's crazy what those kids will make a challenge out of, seriously. But on a serious note, I do appreciate the fact that you've, really, really kept it real, dude. And, I will just say again, me, from my standpoint, and I probably echo my co-host standpoint, I think there is a lot more going on to this. But as we do hear the information for this, ladies and gentlemen, like within the throes of this, the fog of war, we're all trying to just hang on and maintain basic needs, that Maslow hierarchy of needs we're kind of all just trying to maintain right now. But still realize within the National Defense Authorization Act, they legalized propaganda on American citizens. So always try to get as much information you can on this. Please just don't go to one source, whether it's Conspiracy Farm or MSNBC or anywhere, because the implications of this are very, very serious. And really, at this point, the die has been cast, to quote Caesar. But it's really one of those. It's not a matter of if and when. We just got to protect ourselves, protect your family. Obviously, like you said, try to limit, and as everyone said, try to limit your interaction with people. And obviously, we're going to survive this. This too shall pass. But kind of at what cost? As they say, these are those times that try men's souls, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I think one of the things that you also got to go back to is that we need to come together, and we need honest, part of it is we need honest brokers. We need to be able to tell the truth, and we need to say, give some ugly truths that, there are some people that, like I said, I think on a conservative level, I think before this is over, conservatively, we could lose 50,000 people to this.
Are they saying because of the stress that it's going to have on the beds, etc. They're making those, whatever they call it, kind of death panel choices, like this 60, 70, 80-year-old person, we just gotta let him go. I mean, those decisions I hear are being made.
Somebody who's more viable and younger, they put them in the bed instead of the elderly person.
Which, again, goes against the number one of the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. So it's like, man, when we go down that slippery slope.
Well, I'm just going to tell you this. We just had, one of the cases that, I have to verify this, but like I said, I just saw this today, was that one of the homeless in California died today from coronavirus, that was exposed to coronavirus. And I don't think that they got treatment. Now, here's the other thing that, the problem with, the problem with the coronavirus out there is that you had typhoid and typhus.
Yeah.
Some of them, and here's what California is not doing. I mean, they're, a lot of the mechanisms that could kill the virus, that could kill some of the animals that carry the virus, they did away with. So now you're going to have animals that are, because you're protecting wildlife. And I'm not saying let's go kill all the wildlife. What I'm saying is that, you're not killing some of the mice that are going to transfer this. I just think it's a bad approach. And so, California just put 7 million people into lockdown
in San Fran. I think, at least 6 million. Yeah, but the schools are being canceled, etc. Okay. And like you said, it's a shit show out there already. But going back to the person who died, everybody, and I've looked at this specifically. Everybody who dies, I always look to see, did they just die specifically of coronavirus? They're usually older and suffering from something already. So like coronavirus, almost like AIDS, you don't die from AIDS, you die from the sickness that comes from the acquired immune deficiency syndrome. So it's freaky, dude. And honestly, I've been sleeping like shit. I'm just like stressed, like I think everybody is. And it's really good to have these conversations, man. I'm so glad you're there, Pat. You're there, and this show is here, and the farmers are there, friends, family, farmers, to kind of let us vent and hopefully.
Well, try to inform some people.
Yeah.
Look, I just got another message from Facebook saying another one of my posts goes against their community standards on spam this time.
Yeah.
Where I just said economic sabotage or monetary reset regarding the coronavirus.
Well, I didn't send it to you, but there's been articles in the last 72 hours, 3 or 4 days, that have said YouTube and Facebook are going extra hard against whatever they call guideline violations.
I think part of it is too is that they're like the one thing about gargling salt water was predominantly stupid. I think that that post that came. One of them. Now this is Facebook keeps marking. The Verge just came out with this. It said that keeps marking legitimate news articles about the coronavirus as spam, and no one knows why. I just don't think that they've got the. I don't think they've got the. I don't think the algorithm knows what to do yet, and I think that's part of the problem.
You think?
Well, you got to remember. I mean,
they shut down fucking the vax conversation, any of the language, any of these keywords, dude. These power words are just. I mean, they've been flagging our shit on YouTube forever, and I don't really trip on it because it's just another way to get the word out. But
here's the thing: if you didn't know me and Pat's interaction, right? If you didn't know that, me and because how many times me and Pat have met? I don't know, in real life a few times. I mean, if you didn't know our interaction, and I said to Pat on a post, I'm going to fucking kill you, right? If you didn't know that me and Pat knew each other in real life, what you would absolutely go, what the hell's wrong with that guy?
Some people would.
And so there's no way to, there's no way to distinguish. Sometimes an algorithm doesn't have, a human version of it. If you type in chip into Google, is it a potato chip? Is it a microchip?
No, I feel what you're saying. It could be a wide variety. But what Pat just kind of almost illustrated, it could be completely fucking benign. And,
right.
We've both been going through, everyone's been kind of going through it who posts anything, even obviously any way controversial. I literally just posted when the Quad City Times, our local paper, said about the rescheduling of the fight between Pat and Michael Nunn, I reposted it and said nothing malevolent whatsoever. And then you sent me a thing, said you can't post it because it goes against community guidelines, etc. I'm like, really? Okay.
Right.
Is it the name Militich that throws you off, possibly?
Well, no. I mean, but I think what they're worried about right now is the fact that that people are, spreading misinformation.
But why that? That he might as well have said my next fucking Tupperware party is next Wednesday at 7. Like, that's almost as benign as it. I mean,
I
why
think
zero
right
in
now,
on that?
Well, because I think it just triggered a.
Clearly, he's being zeroed in on. I mean, I don't sound like a fucking tinfoil maniac, but I mean, they cut off our ability to do Facebook Lives. I mean, the algorithms, like you say, are already there to flag people who consistently post the shit that we do. We've been dealing with it for fucking 4 years.
I have violated their terms on 17 occasions, apparently.
You're a badass.
Right, but I mean, again,
the CIA's got to my boy George. He's reeled it back on being a bioweapon. Now he's saying it's just an accidental algorithm. My goodness, what's happening now?
I mean, again, I think I think part of the, the problem has been is that, again, people are just not, people are just not, they're spreading misinformation.
I get it.
And I think that's that is what is the
But why isn't that happening with CNN or MSNBC or CNBC? I mean, the same cats who are been spreading. I mean, that's always find it peculiar who gets flagged, and that's why we know those tech companies are basically, we love them, we use them, but they're part of the system too because they help support oftentimes these false narratives that Pat, myself, and all these different shows have to deconstruct. But then we get in trouble for trying to deconstruct the bullshit they set up. It is what it is,
But I mean, a lot of it is too is that one of the, like, I've made a post one time and people literally did not, so one of the things that I've done on my posts, because people are just too stupid to know the difference between a satire or post, I've started emojing them with a shield to say this is a legitimate post, because otherwise people are, I mean, seriously, I made a post one day that was just, I don't know what you want to call it, satire, and people thought it was legit. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, you guys are just not. I mean, seriously. Now, I think it could be from social media.
No, I mean that cancel culture is very weird. Whether you're George Pardos or freaking Kevin Hart can't host the Oscars because we went back 2 years and found something on your phone. I mean, that's literally where we're at right now. I mean, I'm an actor and I got an agent, and I told my agent, I mean, it's going to be tough to book me on anything dope, really. I mean, not to say I'm talented to do it, but they're going to be like, all right, let's check your social media, of course. Oh, you co-host what? All right.
And that's one of the and I tell you this, one of the reasons why we've been doing the testing that we have on our own is because some of the stuff. I mean, if you looked at some of the shit that I post on social media, you'd be like, you are not. Whoa, I'd be unhireable. I'd be an HR's nightmare. I mean,
that's why last night, and it was, Pat always chastised me because, he's like my counselor at summer camp sometimes. But last night I posted, hey, ass eating season is officially over. I found that quite hilarious. And a lot of other people did too. But, I had actually a close loved one like, this is inappropriate. I'm like, did you just fucking say inappropriate to me? Did you get a bed, bath and body works basket with that post? Like, come on. Inappropriate? I'm just cracking a joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that is happening, and part of the other problem is, I mean, I think people are taking, social media too seriously. Like, one of the things that I've ran into, and Pat has probably ran into this just as much as I have. I did a thing one day, and I gotta agree with Joe Rogan. I've been training martial arts for 40 years, since 1980. Or even before that, since 6th grade, 1970. I'm 54, so 1977, right? It took me a long time to, I started out boxing. I wrestled. I did taekwondo. I got a 2nd degree black belt in judo. I avoid fights like you would not believe, and I'm pretty trained.
Most martial artists are like that. Most genuine martial artists have that. Bushido, kind of very chill.
I don't fight. I don't unless I'm physically pushed or I'm challenged in a position that I have no other option. I'm not going to fight. And I'm trained. I'm a combat vet. I'm trained. I've, like I said, I've coached at Ohio State. I wrestled there. I could take down just about, most people.
You are not a pussy, is what you are saying, my friend.
And I would not fight somebody in a real fight if I had to, unless I was.
Yeah.
And I see these knuckleheads online that have never, they don't know how to transition from the guard to a triangle choke, or from a triangle choke to an armbar. And you're going to tell me you want to fight somebody? You think you've got the confidence to fight somebody? You're going to call out online? You don't know what that's like. And I'm like, dude, it just surprises me. And I've not seen it anywhere else as bad as it does when people think that they can fight that they can't.
That's what movies. I don't know. I'm completely not digressing, but I was just thinking about a documentary I saw on this guy. He went in. He's serving life now, but he went in to rob these guys, and then somebody out of the bathroom just jumped out, and he jumped into karate stance. But then the guy's like, "Sit the fuck down," and just shot him. Like Biggie said, "Fuck Taekwondo." I told the fofo. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the kung fu movies gave people a false impression that, like, even though I can whoop your ass. I watched all the Bruce Lee movies.
Right. And I mean, when's the last, I drill. I mean, I'm on the mat every week. I have my own cage at my gym. I have a gym at my, I have my own, gym. I have my own cage. I train in the cage every week, and I wouldn't want to fight somebody, let alone some guy that, damn Kyle that's drinking White Claw and punching drywall. And he wants to get in a fight every day on Facebook. I'm like, dude.
Well, again, you have nothing to prove. A lot of these people you're talking about, these are people who have, this is a whole other level of like why they do these things. Because they, obviously they have something to prove, which,
That's why I quit training with people. That's why I quit training with people I don't know and trust, because they always try to go for the gold and try and hurt you and
take
stuff
the
like
champ
that.
out, yeah.
They're just nuts. But I want to ask you guys this. Guo Wenghua, Chinese billionaire, released a statement. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but you need to listen to his statement on the release of the coronavirus. I take full responsibility to state that the real culprit of the so-called coronavirus in Wuhan is a group of kleptocracy in Chinese Communist Party, headed by Wang Quishan, Chinese VP Meng Zhenjiao, Sun Lu. I'm just going to go through Kawasaki and Suzuki. They plotted the coronavirus project, and the chief operator, Gu Dian, who has been a bioscientist of Wuhan University, led the project to manufacture and release the virus. This is kind of interesting because this guy is a Chinese billionaire. You can find more details about the project in the biggest military portal in China, www.xilu.com, which is the authoritative military website on behalf of the CCP. Listen to this. The coronavirus project is the Pandora's box called by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in his speech last year, and is also part of Pandora's box that we are going to reveal through our revolution of exposure. In 3 weeks, on around February 29th, 2020, this is interesting, he's saying, and then leading into following months, you will see the real seriousness of the coronavirus outbreak. I hope people around the world can collect wisdom to stop the spread of this Pandora's box, completely destroy the CCP, devil's incarnation, and stop the killing of more good people with this virus in the United States and around the world. Everything is just beginning.
Well, what's even more interesting with that is how overtly, blatantly racist you were, because Kawasaki and Suzuki are both Japanese terms, not Chinese. But that's fucking frightening what you just said, bro.
I just read it. It's a billionaire's statement.
But again, people have been cutting and pasting this whole, like, Tom Hanks got arrested in fucking Australia. They raided Oprah's house last night. I mean, it's just...
here's one of the things that I, going back to that, right? there's a guy that is, there's a guy living in his basement right here, right? Somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah.
There's a guy living in his basement that has, that thinks all of a sudden, because he goes to the range once every month, thinks that they can, that he can be an operator because he went to he went and shot, a couple times at the range.
And he's seen Navy SEALs 20 times.
Shot at Navy SEALs. I wouldn't, there's a huge separation there. Again, it goes there where, where people are, sitting there going, what they think that they can do and what they actually can do.
Right.
Most people, most people is, or whatever you want to call it, most people aren't capable of understanding the level that you need to be able to do to operate at that.
Sure.
And one of the other issues too is that, what I've said to people before is at the top 1%, okay, and this is why it's important to understand a little bit about pharmacogenomics. At the top 1%, slight variations are the difference between being a gold medalist and being a silver medalist. The difference between at 100 meters of a tenth of a second, you're either a gold medalist or a bronze medalist. That's the difference. If you expand the 1% to 5%, the difference there is the difference between you being in the Olympics or you sitting at home, not even having a chance to try, to go to the Olympic trials. Or,
right.
I mean, at the extremes, yeah, it's a little, but when you wind that to 5% or 10%, you're not able to do that. And so the problem is with, it's a lot of it's the same thing that goes with diseases, is if you are, if a 1% mutation in a disease will literally, will make you, will wreck all sorts of systems.
Right.
And that is one of the things that I think that's one of the things that, that is one of the things that I think people are just not willing to, have conversations about. That, when you're sitting there talking about, the phylogenetic tree, which is that, viruses follow a path, they follow a model. It doesn't take much of a difference between, if it just mutates 1%, that's a,
It's huge.
that's a
yeah.
it's a huge level. And that is why I think a lot of people, like, one of the things that people did not think about is that, again, it's the difference between a cup of soup and a bowl of soup. We thought this was just going to be a cup of soup. It's only going to affect certain places. Most people are going to be resistant to it. It's not going to attack the R1B1 haplotype, which is what SARS did not do. I mean, and there's plenty of research on that, even from, for the last 15 years. This thing just tweaked it just a little bit, just changed a little bit. And then now we have 161 countries as of today. And here's an interesting fact. And this is what, for some of us, we don't understand. Iraq has, as of today, as of March 17th, has only 125 reported cases. That's it.
But in Iran, isn't Iran with the deaths and right under Italy?
Iran, as of today, and they have porous borders. They have right at 100. They had 15 to 16,000 reported cases. Now let's also think about this. And they're actually reporting those 15,000 cases. They're not, where North Korea has no cases, of course, obviously,
no reported cases.
But as of today, Iran has said that we are fighting we are finding 15,000 cases, and Iran has, oh wow, it just went up. Iran as of today has 16,169 cases with 1,178 new cases and 988 deaths, with 135.
Now that goes back to you talked about the Persians not having as much Neanderthal gene and being more vulnerable to this.
Yeah, and
so that still exists. And now when I go back to Georgia, not to stop you, but when we go back to when we originally talked, you had kind of confirmed that this thing most likely came from a laboratory. When I read from this billionaire's statement, this Chinese billionaire statement, saying that he's going to prove that it came from a laboratory, that it was a man-made strain in a laboratory and released on purpose, and it's targeting people with less Neanderthal genes, which those numbers prove it in Iran, being the Persians that have less Neanderthal genes. So we can't say that this. Can we definitively say? We can't, I guess, but it's a very likely possibility that it still came from a laboratory and not from a pig in a meat market in eastern China.
Well, here's a strange concept. It follows the technical aspect of it follows that it's a zoonosis type. The technical part of it follows a zoonosis type disease virus.
What is zoonosis?
That it was transferred from a animal to a human.
Okay.
Now, the difference being, though, and this is why we go back to the R1B1 haplotype. In Germany, you had 9,300 new cases, right? And you've had 2,095 new cases. Total cases in Germany was 9,367 with 2,095 new cases. But they've only had 26 deaths. So that shows, yeah, they may have got it, but, it wasn't as fatal. China has only 13 new cases and 81 total cases with 80,894. Their total deaths was 3,200. So again, it goes back to there. You should have an antigen for it. France, and again, France is another one. It had 7,700 new cases. 7,700 cases, 1,097 new cases, but only 175 total deaths. So in those countries with the R1B1 haplotype, it's not showing to be as deadly. I'm sorry.
But as again, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Paradox.
Which is what originally was the original research work in 2004 when it was mapped, and they put a genotype and they broke it down, which is what I said the first time I was on the show, that again we shouldn't have in areas of the world where we had the R1B1 haplotype, you're not going to have as many. It's not going to be as fatal, right? Or we're going to have resistance, and the numbers are showing that in that regard, with the exception of Italy, because Italy is there. They had 2,500 total deaths, 345 new deaths, and 31,000 cases total. Now, I don't know if that is, if that is, on what they did. Like, I'll give you an example.
But just to say, are we fully prepared? And I know this is down the conspiracy hole, to accept everybody's numbers, the WHO's numbers, the CDC's numbers. Is there a way to lie about this mortality rate or like flub numbers in any way, shape, or form to create a larger, whatever, for any reason? Is there a way to flub these numbers? I mean, China's doing it, but I mean, China's got their whole intranet locked down. And that's another thing. How are these videos from China getting out? Supposedly from China, but that's another question.
You know what? I don't know. Like, I'll give you an example. In Croatia, you've had literally 69. You have 69 cases, and so far there's not been a single death. So
Told you we were.
There we go. How'd I know?
Well, I just wanted to bring that up, but I mean, again, it is, in there, like I said, there are places in the world where it just is not, it's not, being, you can't even count it that it's been.
Well,
so
again,
little.
when this all plays out, I really am going to be interested to see how, and I think it's geographically what dictates it, but why West Virginia is so just popped up on the radar with just their first case today. So,
and what's isolated, they don't have, but in Greece you had 387. You had a total of 387 cases, 35 new cases.
Didn't they just have a big
thing.
parade the other day, a couple days ago? The Greeks just went out and had a big public parade. Did you see that?
And again, it goes into,
All right.
but they've only had 5 total deaths, which is, relatively minimum. Again, it goes back to, now South Korea is doing it right because they're attacking it. They've only had a total of 84 deaths out of it.
No, North Korea is doing it right. They're shooting coronavirus victims.
Yeah,
Patrick J, the secret authoritarian, comes out again.
Kim Jong-un is cutting this thing off at the pass. He's just taking them out and shooting them.
Hurry up and buy.
That's what he's doing. Now let's look at the bigger picture. I am honestly not, and maybe I'm an asshole for saying this. I'm not as worried about the coronavirus itself as I am about the financial implications that this is going to
Financial and social, have to say.
hammer the world with. And now let's remember, we all know history. We've all studied history. We've all studied history enough to know that financial implosions of this magnitude, which this one has the potential to be bigger than any other financial implosion in human history, considering the bubbles, if they go, that the only reset button that there is available, there's 2 of them, is you either kill the Federal Reserve, everybody goes back to owing 0 to anybody, and it's a total restart on everything, or it's a global war. It's one or the other to get this thing fixed if it continues in the path that it's on. And that is, maybe I'm a guy who sees nothing but the darkest side of this thing, but I'm saying it's either kill the Federal Reserve and create a gold-backed currency that our Treasury alone is printing.
No.
Or,
you don't want a gold-backed
currency. Go into a massive war with China. Who knows?
Before you answer, George, any more asymmetrical warfare is more effective. You can mind fuck people way more than you have to physically kill them.
Georgia Guidestones say 500 million population for the Earth in perpetuum.
Yeah.
A global war takes care of that and resets the economy.
Right. I mean, that is possible.
Definitely
I mean, seriously, that is possible because once if you did have that reset, but again, with 500 million, you don't get some of the.
When were those wrote? I was thinking about that today. The Georgia Guidestones, Patrick. When were those sculpted down there? When do we know?
I believe in the 80s those were erected.
Okay, but we don't know when those actual words were written, because weren't they supposedly built by unknown?
I believe in the 80s. Let me look real quick to refresh my memory.
Yeah, no, go for it. We got time.
Let's see here.
We're hunkered down. We're self-quarantined. Ladies and gentlemen, support the farm, theconspiracyfarm.com. Support the sponsors so we can keep doing this shit. And support George Pardos, man. Seriously. I love these conversations with you, bro, because you got this kind of like Marvin Gaye of the scientific language.
1980. Georgia Guidestones were built in 1980.
Nice.
What is written on the Georgia Guidestones, might you ask? Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule with passion, faith, tradition. And all things with tempered reason.
What about the 500,000? Where's that?
500 million.
I'm sorry.
500 million.
God, I'm so bad
And
with my
again,
numbers
the
today.
500. You know what the 500 million is? Do you know where that came from?
Price is Right? No. Yeah. Price is Right?
No, it came from That was the human population when Columbus discovered the New World.
Because they had census takers out in fucking 1402 or whatever the fuck it was.
No. You can do what do you call it? You can do mathematics from that. I mean, it doesn't. There's, people. We know what roughly the world population has been.
Now listen to this.
Well, Lewis and Clark
Since
hadn't even done their thing
Rosecross
yet.
Christian, aka Christian Rosencreuz, was the founder of the mystical society of the Rosicrucian order. Many suspect that the Rosicrucians were had financed the building of the Georgia Guidestones. Other suspect is Ted Turner financed the project potentially.
Ooh,
we know Ted Turner's history.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
He helped, man, Georgia Championship Wrestling, World Championship Wrestling. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, would not be who he is without Ted Turner. Damn. Just playing devil's advocate.
I know. I'm just saying, and Ted Turner,
we wouldn't have Hanoi Jane without Ted Turner, Patrick.
no, Hanoi Joint is persona non grata in the veteran community.
But let me, God, we are do I do it? Well, fuck it, man. We're self-isolating. We're not going nowhere. I'm not saying Hanoi Jane was proven correctly by any stretch, especially at that time. But we all know the Gulf of Tonkin wasn't real, and the people who were protesting against it, and the 58,000 who died over there, and the millions. It was based off a lie. We shouldn't have been there.
No. Hold on. I'm not disagreeing with it. Hanoi. Hanoi. Jane Fonda going over to the Hanoi was just the optics were horrible. I mean, the optics were horrible, and she didn't do half the stuff that they claimed it does. She didn't pass on Social Security numbers or any of that.
I never heard that. Fuck, I never heard that.
Well, it's just like
I just saw the couple pictures of her over there with. Yeah.
John McCain was also not a songbird. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people claim he did and he didn't. My issue with her is it just didn't look right. And when things don't look right, people then start going around the curve. They look around the bend. I don't know if that means, well,
I mean, obviously became, I don't even say the word fashionable, but I mean, I think people had an intrinsic notion that a lot of the shit that was going on back then was bullshit. But, Gulf of Tonkin, that was kind of early on. Obviously you had your assassination to the president and Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, RFK, kind of later on down the line. But we digress.
So getting back to current times here, I want you guys to also know, we have read on, the QAnons have been saying that this whole thing is cover for mass arrests, of people like Tom Hanks and a bunch of other people who are being arrested for pedophilia. Hold on. The only thing I do know, I know two things. I know one, that a Mexican drug cartel, over 200 members of it, very powerful group, was arrested early last week, all over the country, and they got, I don't know, what was it, $40 million in cash, tons of cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and a bunch of fentanyl and all kinds of shit. So that did happen. Also, the FBI just announced yesterday that the Phantom Secure communication system that was being used by international criminals, it has been dismantled. That was something that organized crime used extensively for them only. It was a secure.
I heard about that, the encrypted thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for them only, and that has been dismantled. So
I mean that's beautiful and it sounds awesome, and I'm sure it fucking will be awesome. But
I'm not saying that this is.
No, I get it because I saw the same list.
I'm just saying that some shit is actually happening.
I saw the same list, but again, that could happen.
I mean, people are taking advantage of the situation right now because law enforcement. I mean, they're in France.
Where's Ghislaine Maxwell, bro? Where the fuck is Ghislaine Maxwell?
Right.
In France right now, that they put they started putting a police to guard milk at the stores. That you come in there, you can only enforce rules. I mean, people are just going to be panicky. People are panicky creatures. I think one of the, like I said, going back to the virus part of it, we need to, one of the things that we need to do is we need to be aware that this, this has a far greater outreach than people give it. This isn't the flu. We need to make sure that people are saying, hey, listen, this is a little bit more serious than the flu. It's a little bit more serious than H1N1.
Well, a little bit more. You've officially kind of said the reaction warrants the threat, because that's been my thing. Yeah. The reaction we're seeing doesn't warrant the threat. You're saying it does.
It does. And because one of the things that's going to happen is if the curve slows down, then what we've done is we're fine until the fall when, we have cold and flu season. And what we've done is we kick the ball down the road. Right now, or it's like playing hot potato. We're throwing the hot potato down to, down the road. When in the fall, when we catch the hot potato, are we going to have a vaccine by then? Maybe. We don't know. We're trying to repurpose drugs. Now, if we can find a repurposed drug, that can act as a viral agent to stop this, we're going to be okay. Then are you going to have, the people that are anti-vaccine or go, this is not, this is just a conspiracy to get people to, mandatory vaccines. And that's what scares me, because again,
that's what scares a lot of people, bro.
Well, here's one of the things that I'll give you an example. Hey, Pat, when's the last time, when did you take a titer test last?
I haven't taken a titers test because I'm Croatian and invincible. I'm impervious to human diseases, sicknesses, and injuries, you Greek infidel.
Hey, you know what? I have some, I got some, you want some toast with butter?
Sure.
You want some toast? Oh, inside business.
It'll just give me a little ache and pain.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
but again,
fucking awesome.
You're going to have, and again, you're going to have mechanisms, but people aren't going to engage them. And this is why I say to people, I understand that why we do certain things, but it's the same thing why you have people drinking or eating. I got a question for you. This has always kind of haunted me. Do you eat a Tide Pod, or do you like chew it? And is it kind of like remember those candies that we had in the 80s and 90s where you bit into the middle of them and they had the fruit juicy ones?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Hey, well, before you keep going, I literally, when that Tide Pod shit happened, I literally reached out to a fucking candy company and I said, let's design a real candy that you can eat that looks like Tide Pods.
I know
that might be deprived and Machiavellian or whatever, but I did it. Let me ask you, with supposedly more tests coming, I think when people are tested more, clearly we're going to see more positive results. People getting popped for it, which, whatever, it is what it is. But do you think that is then in turn going to necessitate even more of these kind of lockdowns, for lack of a better term? What do you think?
Well, I think, if we can get a viral agent that can stop the spread, at least, or, suppress it, I think we're going to be okay. What we don't know right now is, once we don't know the severity of it right now. I think, on the and because we're soft pedaling it, we're not, and people are just, they're unhygienic as it is to begin with.
For real.
I think one of the things you have to take a look at is saying, hey, listen, we need to start production of drugs in the U.S. One of the things that we really need to have a conversation of, because again, this is a national security issue. Do we have pharmacological labs of essential? There are 180 what they consider tier 1 life-saving drugs. Okay, I'll give you an example. One, insulin is one of those. Nitroglycerin is one of them. Albumin is another one. It's what you give to if you get shot, it's a blood, whatever you want to call it, a blood coagulant. You have about, well, I mean,
I'm just fucking with you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm trying to not break it, try to break it down Barney style. You have ACB inhibitors. That's what I wanted to tell you, and I forgot, and I wanted to heel hook you for doing this. So 2 weeks ago, this is how bad things, even in our field, this is how we got it wrong. We thought 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, it was 9 days ago, one of the people that we deal with said that an ACB inhibitor, it was going to put you at risk for the coronavirus, and that's basically high blood pressure medicine. The Department of Cardiology came out today and rebuked that, and I'm like, that's in 9 days. So obviously people are the scientific community is coming together, working together, and saying, hey, listen, we are they are working on it. Part two of it is, I think the media, Dr. Drew went on CBS and said, hey, you guys are blowing this out of proportion.
Yeah.
And that's something we need to stop. We need to listen to the experts. We need to also forget about the I don't know what you want to call it, that this is some of this warrants the need, and to understand, you've got to trust some of the people that are coming out of this. They're not doing this because they don't care about our fellow citizens. That is one of the things that scares me, because one of the problems that I've seen is the research that we're doing, and this is going back to something I want to address, Pat. The research we're doing is self-funded. If I had, and eventually I will have the money to do it, is we want to set up our own lab that we don't share and run these tests, 24/7. I want to, get a whole research crew. And that's why we have another meeting with Dr. Shiva. I want to run some of these toxin tests, and this is all I want to work on. But in order to do so, it's an expensive process. Every mouse that we test is $14. So, and then for every mouse we test we have to buy one mouse for $14, and then we have to buy another mouse that we don't test on. So
to create the what do they call it, the control group or whatever?
Yeah, and so that's an expensive proposition. And one of the things that I've said that one of the things that I will not do is I won't. And this is something that again, I'm not a big pharma fan. I've had offers from a couple pharmaceutical companies to set up their, but here's my concern: they steal our intellectual property,
yes.
and then we're stuck. Because again, yeah, I mean, one of the compounds that we've mixed, we've had positive, not just the one. There's a couple compounds we've put together. I think it has real promise to to people that have been exposed to polyethylene toxins. For example, firemen. We have one that is giving some promising results, and this is 3 years in that we've tested this. And if that is one of our concerns. So again, we're not. I'm not. I don't want people to say, when they listen to this, oh, he's just a big pharma. Big pharma's got him in his pocket. No, we're self-funding. The money that we've done this is our own money, because again, when we publish our results, there's no one that can take credit for the intellectual property that we've developed, because that happens all the time in labs where you're beholden to the I don't know, whatever.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you
who are paying the bill,
yeah, exactly.
The people footing the bill for the testing period, and
hence why we always stress why it's so important for us to get grassroots funding, support the farms, because no one's going to dictate our script here. This is going to be us till the day we die. You will not silence this message. So whatever you guys can do is always support the farm.
Yeah, George, how can people find you? We're going to close out by telling everybody, hey, go to theconspiracyfarm.com and click on and support the farm by buying from our sponsors, our great sponsors over there. And then also, how can people find you, listen to you? You've got your own podcast, radio show.
I'm on Vet Radio Syndicate. You can look that up on Facebook, and we do one. I'm actually going to, you gave me a good idea the last time that me and you talked. I'm going to start another page just for the toxins that we're working on.
Yes,
because
great idea. Great idea.
Well, here's one of the problems that we've had. A lot of the stuff that we've published, and I hate to say this, we've shared it with some academics, and we have a panel that we use. I mean, every week I talk to doctors, biophysicists, and again, this is one of the reasons why we got invited to the conference with Dr. Kennedy. Now, I mean, I'm sorry, with
Del
Kennedy
Bigtree.
and Dr. Del Bigtree and Dr. Wakefield what we have said, what our premise has been, and we had another biophysicist run that, is that what we're saying to people is the reason you're having paradoxical effects of vaccines or adverse reactions is because you already have the antigen present. And there are people that have finally have gone down that we have to change the path, which is when penicillin came out, you didn't attack penicillin. You didn't say penicillin, oh my God, penicillin, it's the devil's brew. No, what you said is, who's the people allergic to penicillin? Let's work on those. And that's what we're saying. Vaccines, for the most part, for 95, 98, whatever that number is, they're safe and effective. Let's find the people that it's not safe and effective for with a test. Let's find those people. And
Titer test helps, ladies and gentlemen. Go out and get your titer test.
Yeah. And if you really, if you get a titer test that tells you, your immune properties, I would also suggest if you really want to know where you stand genetically, it's called a human leukocyte antigen test, which is the one that's given for people that are doing transplants.
Not 23andMe? Is that not? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my God! I swear.
Well, now with the no hold thing, what we're doing now, you can go up and you can get the cotton swab. They're calling it drive-through test. Get the cotton swab right in your mouth. Right. Got your genetics, the whole nine. But they'll stop the corona for you, hopefully. And
you just said that wearing a Tom Brady Buccaneers jersey, right? But I mean, again, if you're going to be informed, if you want to be informed, take those tests, then you know where you're at genetically. The people that and this is something I'm going to say this, and this is going to be painful for me to say it, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, but this is very important. If you have rheumatoid arthritis, you are very susceptible to the coronavirus. Because one of the things that just came out, and you can Google this, and there's numerous stories, the inflammation factor, it acts with the same properties. And with people with rheumatoid arthritis already have a compromised immune system, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have, and I'm sorry, take precautions.
Quit apologizing, dude. That's the more you know. Knowing is half the battle, bro. That's why you're here.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that they've seen. Some of the doctors have seen is that people with rheumatoid arthritis already have a compromised immune system. They're going to be, again, they're going to have issues.
For a gentle way to say.
So we've got, in closing, we've got economic crisis probably coming on our.
Don't say probably anymore, champ. Let's keep it 100 with our peoples. It's happening.
Yeah,
it's happening.
It's happening. We've got potential
prepare for
mandatory
this.
Vaccines coming because, by God, we've got to keep the restaurants open. You've got to have a vaccine. So we've got a lot of crazy shit coming. George, we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for enlightening us and our listeners. And Jeffrey, Do you have anything else to say before we close out?
No, man. I mean, again, for us, now that we're kind of hunkered down, man, with some of my gigs, I'm literally working from home, self-quarantining, etc. So we're going to be pumping out all kind of content here in the next. We got Joseph P. Farrell, Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, Oxford scholar, coming on to break down some economic aspect of it. We have James Corbett from the Corbett Report coming on next week. Please, ladies and gentlemen, smack the people on the head who are licking toilet seats. Please support the farm, support the show. Peace and all of them kind of love. George, man, thank you so much, man. It's always great to have you on, and you're definitely going to be a frequent guest. And what we're seeing is going to be a pretty it's not going away anytime soon. So yeah.
And I want to close. The last thing I want to say, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and just understand this, as somebody that's doing research, I'm trying to find a compound to save people from certain toxins. I'm not doing this just for, just to do it idly. We're sooner or later we're going to find one. I mean, we, whether it's today, tomorrow, down the road, we're going to find a couple compounds that is going to help people. So understand, there are people on your side.
No, for sure.
Believe it or not, I don't want my fellow citizens to die. I mean,
well, and from someone who's heard you go from our first episode of like, Brenda's running everything, and there's
right.
And I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but we're talking about this link between not just autism but vaccines and other ailments. You have said, as you've gone through your mouse studies, there's certain almost like you said, I guess basically genetic, where it's showing up in some people and it's not showing up in others. So
right.
as in goodbye, I pray for your safety as well, bro, because you're with the information that we're all kind of providing, especially you when you get into the pathological aspect of it, is it can be dangerous. And we've seen what happened to people who have gone down this path and kind of put a dent in some of the official overlord dope man's pockets. But
again, and it's my goal is to, again, sooner or later we're going to find it, and sooner or later we're going to come out with a breakthrough that's going to say, this is what is right. This is how we can fight toxins. And, so I appreciate all the love, man.
Absolutely.
George, thank you, Jeff. And join us soon again here on the farm. We're going to be back soon, because as Jeff said, we're working from home.
Self-quarantining, baby. Peace and all them kind of loves. Stay tuned. We'll always be more. Holla.